Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
On this episode of Audiobook Club, we unleash our inner Don Drapers with the help of avuncular adman Rory Sutherland.
Imagine for a moment you're sitting in the boardroom of a major global drinks company, and your job is to produce a new product that will rival the position of Coke as the world's second most popular cold, non-alcoholic drink. That's after water. Well, what would you say? How would you respond? Well, the first thing I would say, unless I were in a particularly mischievous mood, is probably something like this. We need to produce a drink that tastes nicer than Coke, that costs less than Coke, and that comes in a really big bottle so people get great value for money. What I'm fairly sure nobody would say is this. Hey, why don't we try marketing a really expensive drink that comes in a tiny can and that tastes kind of disgusting? Yeah, that's exactly what one company did. And by doing so, they launched a soft drinks brand that would indeed go on to be a worthy rival to Coca-Cola. That drink was Red Bull.
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
Hello and welcome to Audiobook Club, the podcast about audiobooks that firmly believes that it's not possible for skinny people to be avuncular. Matt, I need to take you up with this, actually. First time I've read this script, you write this. I can't agree with what I literally can't agree with what I've just said.
Okay.
So, I don't think it may well, in your view, be not possible for skinny people to be avuncular. However, skinny people can be affable, I'd say.
Yeah, well, then you haven't disagreed with me, have you? Avuncular.
There's two. No, but I don't think it's a question. I don't think it's a question of size of person necessarily in relation to it. However, I do see what you mean. Being avuncular is something that I'd love to be avuncular. I just haven't got the money. It's money, isn't it? Doesn't
it involve a certain amount of the consumption of claret as well, just in your head? You want a nice, posh uncle. Maybe it's my family. I don't know. My dad, when he used to go and buy a suit, he'd walk into a shop and go, "Have you got that in a 42 Portly?" So, dictionary definition time. Avuncular, avuncular, adjective, kind, friendly towards a younger or less experienced person. He was avuncular, reassuring, and trustworthy. The etymological roots are uncle-like, basically, to be like an uncle. Just for me, it implies somebody resting their hands on their substantial belly and telling stories that are wise and helpful in bringing us all along. And I think that it's almost like Rory Sutherland fits the image in my head. As we said last week, and whatever the opposite of fat shaming is, we're doing that right now because we're saying in order to be avuncular, it is necessary to have a certain heft. And Rory Sutherland not only has that heft, but in my research this week, I found out that at one point, he won the advertising industry's worst dressed man, which he wears a lot of tweed, a lot of cord, sometimes rugby shirts under jackets, possibly with red braces over the top. He dresses like some sort of feudal lord, and I'm all for it.
It reminds me of my philosophy lecturer at university, actually, and I think it's because that their mind is on higher things, you know. Never mind. Don't trifle with the affectations of sartorial sartorial elephants. Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say. Sartorial.
There's a sartorial elephant in the room.
Don't even think about trifling with my sartorial elephants. I am thinking of much higher stuff here because I am a psychologist or a philosopher. So that's I quite fancy the life of being avuncular. I mean, I'm kind of on the way to being avuncular anyway, do you know what I mean? But, just be able to sort of wear red braces over rugby shirts, Maybe a pink blazer. Yeah.
All right, rewind.
This week, we are talking about Alchemy, the surprising power of ideas that don't make sense.
There we go.
As you might have gathered now, as we're 12 million years into the podcast, it was written by Rory Sutherland, indeed read by the author, comes in at just over 9.5 hours from Penguin Audio. So you chose this book, Matt. What brought this book to the table?
Well, I have, when you and I have worked in radio for a while, and part of the radio industry is advertising. I have my lovely former business partner and still friend, David Harbour, is a huge Rory Sutherland fan. And he introduced me to the concept. I ignored him, and then 3 years later I started finding short form videos of him coming up on my feed, giving us wisdoms like he did at the beginning of this about Coca-Cola and Red Bull. The Arabic word hikmah means wisdom, but you can use it in the plural, which I love. So he's giving us hikmahs about the advertising industry. This is the first textbook kind of thing that we've done. I'm sure this is on the reading list for various marketing master's degrees and stuff like that. It's the first book we've reviewed from the business aisle, virtual aisle of Audible. And I don't know about you, but it just reawakened something in me. Which is...
Did it? I can see it has, yeah.
Which is the need to... read the first two chapters and then skip to the last chapter so it looks as though we know what we're talking about, because it's a bit heavy going. I don't know how you found it.
Do you know what? It does play into the sort of feeling of sitting back at university at a lecture. Everything it comes up with sounds so simple, actually, and very, very accessible. And you completely understand the analogy and it completely makes sense. And you do remember it as well. Actually, no, I'm an advocate here.
Have you read it, Steve? Have you read it?
Well, I powered through the first two chapters and then realised the deadline. Part 7 about how to become an alchemist. So there's lots of stuff in there, which I'm going to carry on reading because actually, you know what? I'd like to speak to Rory Sutherland. I've got questions for him because it all completely makes sense for selling to people externally. Yeah, when I say externally, I'm sort of thinking about large companies, because I think that sometimes when you go through that glass door into the office building, there are more challenges there to sort of sell things to people who you need to sell them to sort of internally. I think I might be boring myself talking about. Sorry, yeah, just rode this back.
Yeah, funny enough. One of the tags, unusually for an academic tome, which it could be argued this is, one of the tags in Audible's description is funny. And I think in this half hour, we are going to be relying on a bit of the funny. And he started as a copywriter. So there are these brilliantly written nuggets of story that drag you in. And then he goes on to explain deeper what the thought behind the story is and the point that it's there to prove. Although some of the stories are just in there because they're funny. I've got a new game, Steve. How much of the book has Steve read this week? So my question for you is, who came up with the phrase for the advertisement of cream cakes, naughty but nice?
Well, I fell off my chair when I found this out, that it was Salman Rushdie.
Oh, he has read it.
Salman Rushdie, naughty but nice. And it got me thinking, this is the same revelation I had when it turns out that Murray Walker invented Mars a Day, it helps you work, rest and play.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I mean, what's next? Only Smarties have the answer. Was that Christopher Hitchens? You know, where does this thing finish? Beans means highs. Was that the Queen? I don't know.
Right. Reel it back in. Talk us through tell me what I'm about to do.
You were about to give us the 3-step process. The author, we talk about the author, we talk about the book, and then we talk about the audiobook production. Does it lift the original print version? So yes, let's kick off in that order then. Tell us a bit about Rory. It feels like we have talked a bit about Rory Sutherland already, but tell us a little bit more about him, Matt.
Roderick Henry Rory Sutherland was born on the 12th of November 1965. He's a British advertising executive. He is the vice chairman of the Ogilvy Group, which is a very large company with 70,000 employees all over the world. He writes a fortnightly column in The Spectator and has written several books, including Alchemy, The Power of Ideas That Don't Make Sense. So I'm fascinated as well. His personal life, he's married to Sophie Sutherland, and for the third time in 2 months, we're going to Bromley, Steve. We're going to the Glades in Bromley. She is a priest
Oh, thank goodness.
Bromley Parish Church, and they have, something I have in common with Rory Sutherland. Obviously, wit and talent he has, I don't, but he's also a father of twin daughters.
Yeah, you're avuncular, though. I'd say you're avuncular.
I'm too thin to be avuncular. I need a bit more timber.
I think you've inherited avuncularity, though. I love these sort of the phrases you occasionally come out with that, like you said, like from your dad when you said 42 portly and that sort of thing. It's I like it when you talk about the season.
Yeah, well, good. Now I'm going to be tongue-tied for the rest of the episode. There goes any chance of me saying anything funny.
And relatable, yeah.
So what I'm going to do now to break things up and give us a chance to reset and focus. I'm going to play a clip for you. So we'll go into the book thing next. But The basic idea of this book is the world is run by economists and spreadsheets. They run the world of business, but it's not necessarily, you can't measure everything. So the alchemy, the magic of the title of this book is the idea that sometimes having really weird, out-of-the-box, blue-sky thinking, weird thoughts can lead to good ideas that don't make sense if you put them in a spreadsheet. Would you say that's a fair way of putting it?
Completely, yeah.
Okay, all right. So obviously, in order to do alchemy, you need alchemists. And the first one we come across in the book is James Dyson.
The success of the brilliant engineer alchemist James Dyson in selling vacuum cleaners seems to arise from a similar mental disparity. Vacuum cleaners used to be a grudge buy that was only necessary when your old one had broken. Dyson added a degree of excitement to the transaction. Before he invented them, there was no public clamour for really expensive vacuum cleaners that look unbelievably cool, any more than people before Starbucks came into existence were begging cafes to sell really expensive coffee.
It's just brilliant, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, completely. It does. It gets you thinking. It actually makes you. And this is the alchemy of Rory Sutherland here, isn't it? That you kind of think, oh, I could do this. Hang on a second. I could make a really cool, I don't know, nose hair trimmer. I don't know. Who knows where it could start?
You know what? There's one point in this book where it turns out some consultants turn up at Henry Ford's factory/office. And there's a bloke at the end of the corridor outside his office who just sits there. He's paid an enormous salary and he's just got his feet on the desk. And the consultant says, why are you paying this guy a huge salary to just sit there with his feet on the desk? And Henry Ford replies that the last time he had a great idea and gave it to me, it saved me $10 million. So I let him sit there with his feet on the desk. May I suggest that you and I, as much as we can be tempted by these ideas, it might not be the best idea for you and me to be encouraged to sit there with our feet on the desk. The power of doing nothing. Yeah, no, I can do that, but you do need occasionally to do your accounts. So, yes, I think we have to be...
Yeah. You used to do nothing with a purpose, don't you, really? You know, you're very actively... viscerally doing nothing with your feet on this. Yeah.
I think also I need to be hemmed in. I think I need to be trained to think inside the box, and then maybe some stuff would get done around here. Know what I mean?
Instead of doing lots of crazy stuff sort of in the proximity of the box.
So here we go. This is again the emerging sector of the show, which is becoming an audience favourite.
Yeah.
Which is the bit where we head on to part 2 of our 3-part strategy, which is where we have a look at the text of the book, the foundations, the meat of the matter. And people tune in to listen to you reading the back of the blurb on the back of the book. Would you mind taking it away, Maestro?
I'd be delighted. To be brilliant, you have to be irrational. Why is Red Bull so popular, even though everyone hates the taste? Why do countdown boards on platforms take away the pain of train delays? And why do we prefer stripy toothpaste? We think we're rational creatures. Economics and business rely on the assumption that we make logical decisions based on evidence, but we aren't and we don't. In many crucial areas of our lives, reason plays a vanishingly small part. Instead, we're driven by unconscious desires, which is why placebos are so powerful. We are drawn to the beautiful, the extravagant and the absurd, from lavish wedding invitations to tiny bottles of the latest fragrance. So if you want to influence people's choices, you have to bypass reason. The best ideas don't make rational sense, they make you feel more than they make you think. Rory Sutherland is the Ogilvy advertising legend whose TED Talks have been viewed nearly 7 million times. In his first book, he blends cutting-edge behavioural science, jaw-dropping stories, and a touch of branding magic on his mission to turn us all into idea alchemists.
Lovely. Isn't that?
I really want to be one after saying that,
Yeah.
Be an alchemist.
I just find myself... So these stories are brilliant. In fact, I'm going to play you the second question you asked me. In fact, the first question you asked was, why do countdown boards on platforms take away the pain of train delays? I happen to have that clip right here.
Ding, ding.
Bear in mind, too, that there's quite a lot of evidence from parallel fields to support our assertion. The assertion that uncertainty actually matters more than duration in creating the pain of waiting. Digital departure boards at train stations do not make your journey any faster, but they seem to add a huge extent to passenger satisfaction. It seems we'd rather wait 8 minutes for a train knowing it will arrive in 8 minutes than spend 4 minutes waiting for a train in a state of nervous anxiety.
He applies the same logic to the Uber map that shows where your little car is and how long you've got to wait. I have to say, I just totally agree with it. He's absolutely right.
I don't know if I could apply to the Uber map, because the Uber map, the last 7 or 8 times I've tried it, the car simply spins around and the countdown goes up. Thanks, Uber. Yeah. Obviously, they're not sponsoring the podcast. Well, no one's sponsoring the podcast. Let's face it. Let's face cold, hard economic facts.
My last job, I actually managed to get sponsorship from Uber at my last job. So,
Did you?
Because they were doing a thing about, they have a reputation that many of their drivers, for religious reasons, will not pick up people with guide dogs. So they were very keen to talk to me when I was working on the show for the Basic Vision Australia, the Australian equivalent of the RNIB. So, I nearly got sponsorship from Uber. So I was quite proud of that.
Oh, you should be, mate. I don't think they're going to, after what I've just said, I don't think they're going to do it here either. No, sorry.
Yeah, I refer the honourable gentleman to the to the chapters in this book about repeat custom and long-term relationships.
Yeah.
God, I just sounded like Rory Stewart there, didn't I? I went all posh.
Yeah. I want you to show me your fiscal template, mate.
I don't want to see you.
Get your pivot table out. Come on.
One of the great contributors to the profits of high-end restaurants is the fact that bottled water comes in 2 types, enabling waiters to ask simply, still or sparkling, making it rather difficult to say, just tap. By framing the question this way, you make it very, very easy for the person to say what it is you want them to say.
Now, funnily enough, one of those things, and again, I can see I'm doing this, Steve. I am wedging in opportunities to play some of these fantastic nuggets, these fantastic clips. So one of the ones that refers to the idea of subconscious messages that indicate to a potential customer that the company that they are about to purchase something from is not a fly-by-night organization and that they care about sustainable business, is the one about if you own a cafe, leaving temporary furniture outside not only serves to show you that it's a cafe, but also that somebody's taken the effort to put the chairs outside in the morning, so they're invested in their business. I'll let Rory do it.
Yeah.
As a good illustration of this, one reliable way to lose a large amount of money is to go on holiday to some exotic locale, fall in love with a local specialty alcoholic drink, and decide to import it to your home country. I once heard of an acquaintance who fell in love with a banana liqueur in the Caribbean and bought the rights to sell it in the UK. On returning home with his suitcase half full of the stuff, he opened a bottle in his kitchen, hoping to impress his friends with his astute decision. Everyone, including him, found the drink practically vomit-inducing. It had only tasted good when he was in the Caribbean. By the way, there are similar discoveries in the wine industry. Rosé wine seems to taste better while you're by the sea. So be wary going on holiday and then going back home only to order a case of what you'd enjoyed on the beach. Pernod, of course, only tastes really good in France, and Guinness tastes better in Ireland. But that's not because Guinness is better in Ireland, but because Ireland is a better backdrop for drinking Guinness.
Okay, that's clearly the wrong clip that I've played there, but I think that kind of proves my point. I didn't want to stop listening to it. And
no, but this is a definition of avuncular as well. This is exactly the story an avuncular person would tell you. When was the last? Normally when I go away and I like a bottle that you can't get anywhere else, I don't buy the brand and try to export it to the UK. I just take my allowance. Like I guess most people do, don't they?
Did Daddy give you an allowance?
Did Daddy give me an allowance? Yes.
Did Uncle Rory give you an allowance? Don't spend it all at once.
Yes, HM government. That's my daddy.
Funnily enough, the reason that clip is in my chamber, as 'twere, is because I actually disagree with him on that one. I am currently, as you know, in Adelaide, which you probably don't know is the home of Cooper's Brewery, which is a beer that you haven't heard of because it doesn't turn up anywhere else. It only works here. And if you try it somewhere else, it tastes particularly sort of pungent. And I am reminded of, do you remember when Heston Blumenthal did that thing where he went and did troubleshooting for various places like submarines and other institutions and helped them with their cooking problems? One of the places he went to was British Airways, and he was cooking on board planes and it all went terribly wrong because he was trying to be too intricate. But one of the things that he pointed out was that I'm one of those people, and if you look carefully when you're on a flight, you'll see it, is loads of people order Bloody Marys on a plane who don't order Bloody Marys in real life. And part of the reason for that, according to Heston, is that the atmosphere on the plane, the air in the plane is drier, and your taste buds work by dissolving tastes, and then that's how you can tell what it is with your tongue. So food tastes bland on aeroplanes not because the food is bland, but because of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. And Cooper's is very palatable down here. It's a strong tasting range of beers. Because the air is so dry down here, it's good. And the amount of moisture in the air in other places makes it overpowering. And I think I can infer from that rosé tastes best by the sea. Is that because of the salty air? Maybe sardines, rosé. Sorry, this sends me on. I go off a wandering with these little thoughts. So I my internal monologue.
That's what makes this podcast so unique.
Yeah.
There's no other podcast like us, mate. Absolutely. We're not changing. We probably should change, but we're not going to.
All of this is slightly. I think we've explained what the book does. I think we've given some examples. The final part of our process is to say, does the audiobook bring anything to the party? In order to move us gently onto that phase, I would like to play you a little clip that I have labelled Chilean sea bass.
Have you ever eaten Chilean sea bass? It's the product of a particular sort of alchemy, what I call the alchemy of semantics. The $20 slice of fish that graces plates in high-end restaurants under the name Chilean sea bass actually comes from a fish that for many years was known as the Patagonian toothfish. No one is going to pay $20 for a plate of Patagonian toothfish. Call it Chilean sea bass, however, and the rules all change. An American fish wholesaler called Lee Lentz had the idea, even though strictly speaking, most of the catch doesn't come from Chile, and the toothfish isn't even related to the bass.
Steve, does the audiobook bring anything to the party? What do you think of the Rory Sutherland's narration? Would it be as good if somebody else did it?
No, I think this is a case where he's done the research. He needs to say the words because he'll know exactly what to. He knows exactly what he needs to express. So he needs to sell his thought models. You know what's inside his head. And so he's the only one who can say the words, in my view, anyway. I don't know who else you could actually have in there to do it, but he's a great narrator if he was narrating someone else's book, I think.
Narrational performance, this is our highest compliment. It's like, is this someone just reading out the book, or is it a performance?
It's a performance, I'd say. I'd say performance.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's a showman, isn't he?
Well, he is. He's saying things in the way that he would, like you mentioned last week, of the chap at the bar, you know, with the red braces on, just talking to someone. This is how he would talk, but for 9 hours, 23 minutes or whatever.
I'm reminded of the thing that came out recently, which is that there was a documentary about Roger Moore, and he said that the best character he ever created was Roger Moore. And I think there is just I think as the young people would say these days, I think Rory Sutherland's brand is quite on point. You know, he projects it well. It's exactly what you would want to be your claret drinking, Chilean monkfish eating uncle who works in advertising to be like if he was going to take you aside, take you out to lunch at his favorite restaurant and give you some career advice. I think, you know, he is that character, and I do think it's a performance, and yeah, I really, really enjoyed it.
He's inspired me to actually, I think we should actually rename this podcast. We should call it a Chilean podcast. And more people will listen to us. That's all we should.
Unfortunately, we're more of a Patagonian toothcast, I think. Unfortunately, Steve. There are limitations to this, though, and as we've gone through the last however blooming long we've been doing this, I've realised something that jumped out at me. There are limitations of the audiobook as a means to learn something. We've played all the little stories, but we haven't necessarily brilliantly shown what all of his arguments are. So the little nuggets have stuck in my head. I have to say I do need to go back and read it again, as you would do with a textbook. I have to say I've clipped up stuff in the audiobook that hasn't come into this show that I want to go back and listen to again and try and understand the thoughts behind it a little better. But there's one point in the book where he is doing one of those things. Here's a little puzzle for you, and then once he's done that, he goes,
I'll just repeat the problem because this is a bloody audiobook and you can't look at a picture.
The limitation of the audiobook and how we process the information. I don't know, maybe this is a personal thing. In fact, if we're going to talk to Rory Sutherland, that would be the question that I would ask him as a student of the human mind and behaviour. I would want to know, why is it that I found it difficult to... I found it easy to relate to the stories, but difficult to map out the arguments of the story and cling on to them and for them to lodge in my thick skull. Is that something to do with it being an audiobook?
I don't know, I think it's very much horses for courses. It depends how you prefer to ingest your information, how you're wired. Some people are wired to audiobooks. Clearly, what we're discovering tonight is for different reasons, actually. you're a complete advocate for audiobooks because that's how you prefer to read books in general. But this is about learning, isn't it? So if you want to learn something, how do you retain that information for a long period of time to the point where you remember it back and you act on it as well? And that last bit is actually really key. How do you change your behavior because you're following something in the book here, because you've remembered it, because it was delivered so well it can't dislodge from your memory? It's a line. There's always a line in an audiobook that if you love it, you'll always remember it, I find. And I think that's the same thing here. So if you're not necessarily either you prefer to read something to absorb something, or the diagram obviously can't be shown on the audiobook, then you're going to absorb it through the printed version. Personally, I'm quite happy to listen to this book as though I'm listening to a 9-hour Radio 4 show or something. And then it would be kind of humming in the background, and then there'll be a eureka thing that he says in there. I go, oh my good, that's it. I'm going to remember that, and I'll remember that. But that's very personal to me. So I think it might be different for different people.
Well, something that's emerging over time as you and I do this is that, and it's something to do with left brain, right brain. I don't never quite know which is which. I get confused, but I enjoy fiction. I enjoy immersing myself in a story, whereas you are more comfortable with factual audiobooks. I wonder if that's different ways our brain works. And again, Senior Sutherland, if you'd like to come and tell us what's wrong with our brains or categorize us. But I think, you seem to be taking on board stuff that perhaps passes me by while I'm like some sort of story magpie, audio story magpie, Steve.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Finding the precious jewels and nicking them.
Absolutely. No, when we say nicking them, we don't mean plagiarizing, of course, dear listener. Absolutely not. For anyone who's listening.
The moral rights of the author have been asserted.
They have been asserted, indeed. Absolutely. Well, I think we wrapped up on this one, are we?
Yeah. Great book, really interesting. Loved all the stories. Need to go back and do it again. Would do happily. Pull it down from a shelf. If it were a real book, there would be post-it notes and highlights all the way through it. But that's not something that's so easy to do with an audiobook. But just what a fascinating, eccentric, lovely man who, yes, I would like to go and do lunch with.
Let's do lunch, yes. Let's do lunch next Tuesday at the same time. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the Ivy, absolutely.
Of course it's the Ivy. Well done.
Yeah, it's always London's trendy Ivy when there was only one of them, of course. That was Alchemy, The Surprising Power of Ideas That Don't Make Sense, written and read by Rory Sutherland, comes in at 9 hours, 38 minutes. Penguin Audio is the publisher. Now, Matt, just before we talk about next week's books, can I bring back an old feature very briefly? So this is Notes from the Margin.
Yay.
And a couple of things here I wanted to sort of flag up. First of all, because Matt and I are not familiar with this series. However, my attention was piqued when I noticed that this particular book that was released on the 21st of January, so 9 days as we record, was actually on the bestseller list on Audible since August 2024 with pre-orders, and this is Onyx Storm. Now, this is, for anyone who hasn't listened to this, and not many people, there are not many people out there who haven't listened to this. It's a big deal. It's a third book in the series by Rebecca Yarros. It's part of the what's known as the Empyrean Romance Fantasy series, or Romantasy.
Oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. What? Hold on. This wasn't in the meeting. You're just trying to be Rory Sutherland, aren't you? Yeah. I think we should take ourselves out of our comfort zone. Yeah, Steve, stay in lane. We were going to do a Doctor Who next week. What the hell are you doing?
I'm doing notes for the Doctor Who. Wait for your Doctor Who. I know you want to listen to this. All right. Yeah. Just back in your blue sky thinking box for a moment.
Sorry.
Well, if we are an audio book club, we can't just stick to the same genres we like. You've got to spread it out there. You've got to spread it out there.
Romantasy. How's that going to go?
Well, I don't know. Look at the stats. We've got to move on. Got to move on up, mate. Go on. Let's face it.
No. Have you learned nothing? We don't look at the stats. That's what Rory has taught us. See?
That's it. Maybe we should get back inside our box, or dare I say, echo chamber. I wouldn't say echo chamber.
Oh, carry on.
So, Onyx Storm. So, this is the third book in the series by Rebecca Yarros. This is Romantasy, and it's the Empyrean series. So, for big fans, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. It comes between Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Sorry, after Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Now, the reason is I'm really interested to learn about this. So, obviously, given the conversation and digression that Matt and I have just had, if you are a fan of this series, come on and talk to us about Onyx Storm. Why should we be reading Onyx Storm and indeed Fourth Wing and Iron Flame? I'm really keen to learn that because it's a storming bestseller since last August, before it was even released, 4 or 5 months later. So, and also, by the way, and I'm saying this now because it was released on the 21st of January and it's the 30th now as we record. The reason why I'm asking now is because the audiobook is 8 minutes short of a full day long. It's 23 hours, 52 minutes.
Of knobbing goblins. What?
Yes, great. Well, there's the outreach blown up again for another week. always rely on you to broaden the church.
the elf that is no longer on the shelf.
Indeed, yes, quite right. So anyway, I'll bring it back to something you're much more preferring. I don't think you might have heard this actually, but if you are a
Pixies
fan,
with big.
yes,
Sorry, no.
enough of that. Hang on, this is supposed to be your early morning in Adelaide. It's late night for me. Now, you won't have heard this, but I know you're a fan of the rest of entertainment. This is a podcast, and you will know this because it's always in the charts, in the top 10. This is Richard Osman and Marina Hyde, and they go through behind the scenes of the entertainment industry. But actually, you might like the section that towards the end of this week's podcast. Actually, it's a question and answer session. So again, I think it was released on the 30th of January. If you want to listen back to it, but Richard Osman goes into a little bit of detail about audiobooks and about how Thursday Murder Club and We Solve Murders actually was produced and recorded, and what exactly Nicola Walker did to, and indeed, was it Fiona Shaw did in the third and fourth Thursday Murder Club books, how they went about actually voicing the podcast, voicing the audiobook.
Bring back Leslie.
So you might be interested. Yeah, you might be interested in. Yeah, indeed, Leslie Manville. But you might be interested in listening to that section if you haven't, because I thought it was very insightful. No spoilers. Go and listen to their podcast. You had, like they need more listeners, of course, from us, but well worth doing. Anyway, there we go. Their closes are rather elongated.
Hold on.
38 minutes in, yes.
Yeah. That fish isn't going to get itself out of the oven. The romance fantasy thing, yes, you're right, and it's my bad. We are not stuck in a rut, because we're listening to books that we have enjoyed or that have attracted our attention. And yes, we do need to diversify a bit. Interesting. While you've been wittering on, Rory Sutherland. You just made that very valid point there. Then you said my whole point was wittering on. Rory Sutherland.
Well, you're wittering on about other forms and other people and that, whatever it was.
I'm just giving out hikmas, mate.
That's it. We covered it.
Rory Sutherland says that it's interesting to him that actually, in terms of creativity, most of the book that we've done this week was written after he'd had a day doing nothing. And that allows the thoughts to mulch in your head. So your wittering allowed thoughts to mulch in my head. And my thought is we do need to broaden it. This week we went and found the best book in the business aisle. You are suggesting that we venture into the romantasy, fantasy, Nobbin Goblins aisle.
Yes, in a non-patronising way, of course, dear listener. Don't be frightened about coming on the podcast once saying he won't say this stuff to you face to face.
We might need a native guide in this particular endeavour. But how about what we do? Thinking Richard Osman, thinking people who can't see very well playing darts. I think at some point, maybe once a month, we put all of the genres that we don't do on a dartboard, throw a dart at it, and do the best book from whichever impenetrable genre that's out of our comfort zone it lands in.
Oh, look at you turning around that little last 10 minutes there. Yes, what a great idea.
Because I was sitting here doing fuck all, mate.
I was wittering.
Why are you witted?
Yeah, well, I witted about broadening the church. That's not a direction I want to take the actual church. Of course, it's there are lots of broad churches. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that. Right then, so that was all the notes from the margin. Okay, so many years ago, we're going to tell you what we're doing next week. Two things, actually. I think we can fit both of these in there, but they're very, very different. Now, there is a slight link, because I think earlier on in the show, I think we touched on something that might involve Steve Coogan. I can't remember what it was now, so that analogy goes. But anyway, this week on Channel 4 in the UK, there is a drama called Brian and Maggie, and this is about Brian Walden, who was, and if you're a child of the 80s and 90s, he was on Sunday afternoons doing hour-long interviews with the politician of the week, the president of the Board of Trade about, import taxes or something, but for like an hour. So this was the traditional long-form thing. And Rob Burley, the author of Why Is This Lying Bastard Lying to Me, explains and very compellingly argues the case to bring back these hour-long formats, because basically we live in a world of sound bites. If you hear a politician, it's generally 30 seconds. They're kind of sort of telling the line they've been told to tell on repeat until the interview's over. But this is what draws out real answers. And Rob Burley, by the way, he was the producer of the Andrew Marr Show, producing these political interviews. I think it was at Sky News as well for a time. And this book is thoroughly interesting. Matt, you've not read this one yet, but we're going to do this one next week, just to learn the inner workings of how to secure these interviews, how they went, how they prepare. But it's really fascinating. And the last sort of 15 minutes or so, and very kind of you to give me a self-indulgence here, Matt, I really appreciate it. So I'd like you to procure yourself, and I'll send you the link, Death and the Queen. Now, this is a Big Finish production, and we talk about Big Finish sometimes as well, but they've been telling stories for well over 20 years now, mainly Doctor Who.
Can I just so the reason we're doing this is because you've basically had to deal with the stuff that I've been throwing at you, which is more my side of the curtain than yours this week. So one of the things you said last week is that you struggled a little with the Masquerades of Spring, the latest in Ben Aronovich's Rivers of London series, because it wasn't a full-on big production in the Big Finish style. Yeah. So for that context, sorry, carry on. But do you know what I mean? That's the context.
Yeah, that's really kind. So this is a full cast audio dramas basically. If you're not familiar with their work, they don't just do Doctor Who; they do all kinds of hit shows that you might remember as well. But they're a brilliant company, and it's a real sort of hotbed of for up and coming talent, and in terms of not only just acting but also
like Tom Baker.
Yeah, well, you need to bring back the old favourites, to bring in the new. But this is exactly to your point. They have resurrected all of the old Doctors. But David Tennant and Catherine Tate star in this one. Death and the Queen is what you mentioned. You liked a bit of David Tennant. So Death and the Queen is the one. It is only 50 minutes long. So it will be over before you know it. And that's why we're not going to spend too much time on it, on that particular one. But I'll send you the link to it. But apparently it's one of the best.
All right. Well, listen, let's say that we're mapping out the next 2 weeks. It sounds like we've already got 2 reference texts for the first idea. And the second idea, it's a different kind of audiobook, isn't it? Because they cost... Big Finish books, I've been looking at their website, and they seem to cost in the region, and because I'm abroad, it's telling me that it's sort of $40 Australian and the like. So it's much more than when I download an audiobook these days, it averages out at about £7 because I buy clumps of 3 tokens from Audible at £6 a piece, £18 for 3. So the idea of spending almost double that on a single audiobook is quite intriguing. And and we've only really covered the audiobook platforms we've covered are Audible and Spiracle, and perhaps we need to go and do a bit of a deep dive on Big Finish. I noticed that there seems to be on the website a picture of Tower Bridge with a big red V over it, like the Lizards Eat Mice series. So we're London based. We'd like a bit of sci-fi, maybe Maybe next week for the lying bastards, and the following week for the lizards eating mice. What do you think? And Big Finish.
Oh, perfect. Yes. There's a bit of a J turn to do the 2 in the 1 episode. Yeah, let's do that. We've been a little while on this one, haven't we? Even though we just did 1 book.
Eventually.
Eventually. Well, we'll just wrap that one up then. If you want to get in touch with us, indeed, if you've not been entirely put off by coming on and talking about Onyx Storm, it'd be great to hear from you and your thoughts on that book. Our hashtag is Audiobook Club. We are on Audiobook Show, both on Blue Sky and on Instagram, always posting up there and having conversations and things. Joining the new, I'm really enjoying Blue Sky, by the way. Really enjoying that. There is a hashtag called Book Sky, where you sort of tag all your posts to, and you find lots of lovely people. We've had a few comments there, so thank you for them already. So we're growing a little community there on Blue Sky. Well worth a go. Spiracle have just joined Blue Sky, by the way. Speaking of them, so give them a follow if you're on that particular platform. That's how you get in touch with us. So until next week, where we're going to find out why these lying bastards are lying to us. Matt from Adelaide, or in Adelaide, but generally from London. We'll see you next week, eh?
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.